It's impressive and scary at the same time. Occasionally, ByteDance's content moderation system would go down for a few minutes. It was nerve-wracking because we didn't know what kind of political disaster could occur in that window. Algorithms would then analyze whether the content was risky enough to require individual monitoring. Oh my. Common thing we talk about on the show is that Chinese tech monopolies are essentially servants of the CCP. All the data, all their AI, all their IP is essentially beholden by the Chinese Communist Party. Even though Larry Summers doesn't see any connection between the CCP and, Chinese tech monopolies. So I guess everything's okay. But anyway, going back to reality, they are the monopoly of all monopolies, right? They are the true power source, the CCP, President Xi. They are the true puppet masters behind everything that is going on in China. The regulators literally have offices inside of every one of these tech monopolies, headquarters and regional offices. I mean, the regulators are literally there in the office on a day-to-day basis, making sure that the regulation, the content regulation, the data, right, all complies, checks out with what the CCP wants people to think. Article here, which I thought was really interesting. This individual, I helped build ByteDance's censorship machine. I wasn't proud of it, and neither were my coworkers. But that's life in today's China. We just covered Kevin Mayer, the former CEO of TikTok and COO of ByteDance, had a kind of a pathetic exit interview with CNBC where, he's the victim, of course, and, has done nothing wrong, has made no mistakes. I believe he said he had no regrets. That was how he ended the interview. But, no critique of getting into ByteDance and seeing what was going on in ByteDance and saying, actually, there are some legitimate security concerns here, right? And that's why he wanted to leave ByteDance. No, none of that narrative out of Kevin, right? ByteDance, TikTok, everything was fine. Everything was rosy. I don't know why anyone would have any national security concerns. I mean, it's not like CNBC really asked Kevin about it or pushed him on that, but still, if Kevin wanted a good reason to say why he exited TikTok and ByteDance without making him look like a weak victim, it would be, I got in there and this was not okay and not up to my moral standards. Be nice to see some executives have some values and morals these days. Anyway, no mention of that. And so now here is a first-person account of someone on the team. Really great read. I'm going to go through this, a few good pieces of this here. We've talked about how regulation by the CCP, by the Chinese government, worked exactly counter to the whole premise of platforms, right? To connect information, to enable value to be exchanged. And what the CCP did was, because of their heavy regulation, anyone that was talking about COVID, late 2019, they were monitoring this on social media and they were clamping down on it. And not only were they taking the messages off, they were sending police to your home or your relatives' homes to make sure that you stayed quiet. And so she talks about this exact thing. It was the night Dr. Li Wenliang struggled for his last breath in the emergency room of Wuhan Central Hospital. I, like many Chinese web users, had stayed awake to refresh my Weibo feed constantly for updates on his condition. Dr. Li was an ophthalmologist who sounded the alarm early in the COVID-19 outbreak. He soon faced government intimidation and then contracted the virus. When he passed away in the early hours of Friday, February 7th, 2020, I was among many Chinese netizens, the rebels, who have some semblance of independent thinking, who expressed grief and outrage at the events on Weibo, only to have my account deleted. This woman put these protocols into place, right? So, but she truly is a victim. what can she do? Last year, when ByteDance was at the center of U.S. controversy over data sharing with Beijing, it cut its domestic engineers' access to products overseas, including TikTok. TikTok has plans to launch 2 physical transparency centers in LA and DC to showcase content moderation practices. But in China, content moderation is mostly kept in the shadows. What this touches on here is the deep pipes between TikTok and ByteDance based in China. And we've spoken about this, as it relates to both ByteDance, TikTok, and Zoom, that you have all the product and engineering based in China, but then you have kind of the sales and marketing based in the United States. And how can you ever truly separate the two? So she's saying here, ByteDance cut its domestic engineers' access to products overseas. That means that they throttled these engineers' access, but it doesn't mean that the data isn't still flowing back and forth on those pipes, right? It doesn't mean that they throttled access to the CCP, right? All it's saying is that her access was throttled, right? Not altogether. What she talks about further is the AI that helps to inform the recommendation algorithm is all run out of China. So you can't truly decouple TikTok from ByteDance in China. It just, you'll actually, prevent the product from operating successfully or properly, right? That's just how the system is designed. And it comes through in this, in this dialogue or this article that she's written here. ByteDance employed about 20,000 content moderators to monitor content in China. They worked in these different cities. Some were employees, some were contractors. My job was to use technology to make the low-level content moderators work more efficient. For example, we created a tool that allowed them to throw a video clip into our database and search for similar content. When I was at ByteDance, we received multiple requests from the bases, these are the content moderation bases, to develop an algorithm that could automatically detect when a user spoke Uyghur. Uyghur is the group of Chinese Muslims who have been put into, re-education camps, literally out of 1984 here. So they wanted to monitor if someone's speaking in Uyghur, then they can automatically cut off the live stream session in the app. The moderators has asked for this because they didn't understand the language. Streamers speaking ethnic languages and dialects that Mandarin speakers don't understand would receive a warning. And if they didn't comply, moderators would respond by manually cutting it off. But when it comes to Uyghur, with an algorithm that did this automatically, the moderators wouldn't have to be responsible for missing content that authorities could deem to have instigated separatism or terrorism. We eventually decided not to do it. We didn't have enough Uyghur language data points. You can see just the level of sophistication, the amount of resources being poured into this content moderation, the fear that the content moderators have if they, God forbid, miss a Uyghur live stream for, I don't know, we're talking minutes here, not hours, right? They wanted this to happen automatically. Rather than them having to manually pick it up, even though it's flagged, but then they have to manually cut off, right? They wanted to have it be done automatically. I mean, just the level of sophistication. I mean, this is such difficult. Think about the computing power and the tools, time spent to develop these programs, both in code and with humans to do this. I mean, it's impressive and scary at the same time. What Chinese user-generated content platforms most fear is failing to delete politically sensitive content that later puts the company under heavy government scrutiny, like what we're seeing with Alibaba, having to shed these media properties. We've talked before about how you've seen stock prices of Chinese tech monopolies crater when the Chinese government puts more restrictions or scrutiny on the media properties and how well they're doing content moderation. It's a life and death matter. Yikes. Occasionally, ByteDance's content moderation system would go down for a few minutes. It was nerve-wracking because we didn't know what kind of political disaster could occur in that window. As a young unicorn, ByteDance does not have strong government relationships like other tech giants do. So it's walking a tightrope every second. I mean, it's just like out of a novel. The team I was a part of, content moderation policymakers, plus the army of about 20,000 content moderators, have helped shield ByteDance from major political repercussions and achieve commercial success. Not many tech companies in China have so many resources dedicated to moderating content. Other user-generated content platforms in China have nothing on ByteDance in terms of their level of content moderation sophistication. So this is the company that Kevin Mayer went into, and not one iota of concern when he looks at the level of content. You know, he's a smart guy. He's the COO of ByteDance Global. He gets in there. None of this smells funny to him. I mean, this is really just, disheartening. It really is emotional to read. A dim light of idealism still burned, of course. Perhaps it was naive of me. I had thought if I had tried a bit harder, maybe I could raise the muzzle of the gun an inch, as they say in Chinese, to let a bit more speech sneak through. Eventually, I learned how limited my influence really was. When it comes to day-to-day censorship, the Cyberspace Administration of China would frequently issue directives to ByteDance's content quality center. They would then task different teams with applying the specific instructions to both ongoing speech and to past content, which needed to be searched to determine whether it was allowed to stand. Now, okay, this is the last thing, and then we'll keep moving. Look at this. During live streaming shows, every audio clip would be automatically transcribed into text, allowing algorithms to compare the notes with a long and constantly updated list of sensitive words, dates, and names, as well as natural language processing models. Algorithms would then analyze whether the content was risky enough to require individual monitoring. Oh my, this is next level. This is extremely difficult to do. Extremely difficult to do. Wow. It is just, it's really just sad to see. And by the way, this is not just happening in China. This is happening now with your US tech monopolies, your Western tech monopolies. This content moderation philosophy has been exported and has now become a competitive differentiator. Hey, if you can't do content moderation and spend, how much money does this cost? They got 20,000 people doing content moderation, hundreds of engineers. The live streams are automatically transcribed. It's remarkable and scary. I don't know how else to classify it. This has now spread. It's not just in China. This is now a competitive differentiator for the big tech US monopolies. And it is being used as a bludgeon to divert resources and require that smaller tech competitors to the big tech monopolies spend their money on this kind of stuff rather than improving the product, expanding the network, etc. A very, very sad direction for big tech. Hi, I'm Alex. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, but even better, make sure to follow us on Odyssey, follow us on Rumble, and text us 203-646-5159. Text the word Monopoly. You'll be subscribed. You'll get updates about when we're going live, our latest videos, and we'll send you even a little goodie bag. And in the event that we all get banned from big tech, we'll still be connected.